Welcome to the video, my precious princesses, my wonderful knights, and fabulous beings. Today we will be continuing to read Blood Bond by Lady's Days. We are currently on chapter 4. If you haven't heard the other chapters, please do so. If you would like to read this for yourself, I shall leave a link in the description below. He sat with his head pressed against his hand, staring out the window as another plane drove its way onto the tarmac. Another one leaving meant another flight closer to him getting on his own flight. He had finished his latest job and was excited to go back home, though, from what he'd been hearing through the grapevine, things might not be as stable as he had assumed. His white hair was moved away from his eyes as he cast a look down at the newest text message. A reminder that he was getting picked up later tonight when he got in. He could only hope things would hold out a little bit longer until he touched down. And as his thoughts wandered to the girl from childhood he hadn't seen in over a decade, he could only hope the betraying move his father had done against her own hadn't cost her life. He had made his choice on sides after all, and right now, all that mattered was getting on board his plane. And as he got up to head toward where his group number was being called, he made sure the red locks were no longer on his face either. A mugging? Uraraka's voice called through your phone, making you retract the device from the volume. You got mugged? Yes, but I'm fine, you spoke, a tad bit annoyed with her. I was lucky enough that a good Samaritan scared the attacker away when they threatened to call the police. Should I come over? There's no way you should be working today. Uraraka, relax. I'm fine. If I'm being honest, working right now is the only thing keeping my mind off of things. Are you sure? I mean, you just got your phone back this morning, and you're lucky no one stole your wallet as well. I am lucky, I'm well aware, but I also know that no one else is making income for me, and besides, I already made all these sweets. You forced yourself to laugh for Uraraka's sake. She could be quite the worrywart at times. And so, even if you were still a bit shaken up, you also did want to work. She started grumbling from the other side of the phone. Alright, fine, I'll take lots of breaks today. Okay? It went silent, Uraraka obviously thinking over the option. Finally, she spoke back up once more, giving into your demands. Fine, but don't push yourself. The dingling of the bell to your door alerted you that you had a customer, and you glanced up to see 3 young individuals having entered the shop. They hung rather close to each other, glancing around and looking at you. When they had been caught by you, they turned back to each other, whispering amongst themselves. You blinked, turning back to your phone conversation really quickly before you dealt with these 3 new customers. I've got customers, Uraraka, you told her. I'll talk to you later. And with that, you shut off your phone. By this time, 2 of the 3 had come close to the display case, while the third was quickly approaching the counter, hands in his pockets. He avoided eye contact and seemed a bit defensive currently, as did his 2 buddies. Can I help you 3? Are you the macaroon girl? He asked, seeing that his 2 friends had now moved near him. Yes. Any reason why? The 3 exchanged glances with each other, nodding together, and then made their way behind the counter and toward your side. 30 minutes later, Bakugo walked through the front door of your little bakery. His latest search for a meal had been a bust, but he was sure he'd be able to find one soon. After all, he just needed a hospital with a flaky nurse, and he was golden. Upon entering the establishment, he noticed a few things right away. The first being that the open sign and door were unlocked, and yet you were nowhere to be seen. As he rushed to the back room, he saw that it was the same case in the front. Shit! He cursed as he quickly locked the door and rushed up the back entrance staircase to your apartment. It was the only place left to look, or he would have very serious problems. He was certain no revenge-seeking monster would be trying to attack you during the day. That was why he left you after all. He thought he could do his own thing this afternoon and be back at sundown to guard the haven. His stomach dropped at each step, his mind wandering to all the creatures that could have gotten their hands on you, and each thrill-seeking way they'd be torturing you for the crimes of your father. And with each step, he felt his heart sink, but blood boil. Without warning, he slammed open the unlocked apartment door and rushed inside. He paused in the living room, seeing you bending over the coffee table. It appeared you had just placed down some drinks and treats. "Oh, hey man, we were wondering when you were gonna get here." Bakugo's eyes twitched as he turned to the familiar straw blonde, his stupid black bolt sticking out as much as the other two idiots in the room, the smiling redhead and the relaxed pink-haired girl. "What the hell are you doing here, dunce face?" Bakugo seethed, coming forward and taking the other male's collar into his hands. "Calm down, man." The straw blonde rose his hands in defense. "We assumed you found a haven since you didn't come back last night, so we wanted to check it out." "I only came for the sweets." The pink-haired woman smiled, plopping another macaroon into her mouth. "The last ones you got us were too good, Bakugo, so I wanted to find out where you got them." "It was pretty easy since I'm the only one who makes them in the city. Not everyone has the patience for French pastry." You blushed at your own gift for baking. "Sorry about scaring you earlier as well. We're so used to having to sneak around that I guess we forgot to play it cool." The redhead laughed. "It's all good. My own paranoia is pretty hellish to deal with." You shrugged. "What the fuck is happening?" Bakugo blinked, finally letting the straw blonde go. "We came to visit your greatest rival's daughter, see why exactly you had a change of heart. I mean, we assumed she was cool, but man, you really left out how she's probably the coolest human this century." You rolled your eyes at the flirty blonde with a black streak in his hair. You pushed his nose away with your finger. "Nice try, but your charms won't work on me, I'm afraid, Incubus." His electric eyes widened, looking back at Bakugo and pointing. "Holy crap! She really is trained to recognize, isn't she?" "Not like you could get laid anyways. You're the worst fucking incubus out there," Bakugo muttered, sulking toward the kitchen as his three idiots continued. "Ooh, me next, me next," the female in the room called out. "You haven't dissolved anything in my apartment, so my original guess of slime was wrong. So I'm gonna guess shapeshifter?" You nodded your head. "That's right. How did you know?" "Your human form is good, but you keep looking at yourself to make sure it's still there. Kinda give away that your current form isn't your true one." "What?" "Werewolf." You didn't even bat an eye at the redhead. "If you act like a puppy, you probably are one." "Wow, she's good." He smiled. "Oh, Kirishima Ejiro, by the way. Kaminari Denki is the blonde, and of course, last but not least, Ashido Mina." "Well, now that fucking introductions are done, what are you idiots doing here?" Bakugo came back in, a bottle of juice in his hand as he collapsed onto the couch. "They came looking because you didn't come back to where you all had been staying and thought I had killed you. Turns out we all get along really well." You answered his question, passing out the drinks to your guests. "Who would have guessed that you had the persuasion ability to turn the whitest swan of all into a black one? Props to you, bro." Kaminari winked at the vampire. "Shut up or I'll kill you," Bakugo glared. "You all don't have to hide, by the way. Feel free to relax," you spoke, watching as their eyes widened a bit. "Seriously? Usually humans get a bit freaked out," Kirishima mumbled, rubbing his neck. "I grew up with a father who tried to tell me you all lived under my bed, and besides, you're not trying to kill me here, so I have no issue. I did already let the worst offenders seek shelter here after all." You smirked a bit as Bakugo growled at you from where he sat. Now that he was going to be here for a while, and having his friends stop by randomly, you could at least make fun of him a bit. Ah, good, Mina cried, her pale skin bursting into tones of pink and her eyes darkening to black, two golden horns sprouting out of her fluffy pink hair as she relaxed further. So nice. It's so annoying to hide my horns. I know. Always so pesky, Kaminari mumbled, his own much shortened black horns peeking through his golden locks. I'm fine how I am, Kirishima smiled, obviously not having the same issue as his friends. That's because your hair is so gelled up it hides the dog ears, Kaminari cried out. Not my fault, Kirishima chuckled, reaching and plopping a smack into his mouth. Oh hey, Bakubro, mind showing me where the bathroom is? Find it yourself, shitty air, Bakugo grunted, still annoyed by their sudden arrival. Come on, man. It'll only take a minute. Kirishima's voice dropped down a bit, making Bakugo's interest peak. Yeah. Bakugo rose from his seat, looking to Mina. If the sexless demon tries to touch her, let me know, so I can pound him into next week. Mina gave a thumbs up as she continued to talk to you, while Kaminari pity ate more food from the table. They had already made themselves at home, it appeared. Kirishima and Bakugo paced down the hall a bit, stopping in front of the bathroom door. Alright, the hell did you sniff out? Bakugo huffed, kicking a leg up against the wall. Wow, a dog joke. Nice one. Kirishima blinked, having heard all the terrible puns at this point in his life. Man, I think there's more going on here than you realize. Bakugo rose a brow. What do you mean? When we told her who we were, we explicitly said we weren't human and wanted somewhere more private to talk. She did so without hesitation. It's a bit strange since her dad wanted to kill any and everything. Not human, right? She's different, trust me. She hates to be compared to her old man. He must have fucked up pretty badly for her to hate him more than any of us. In fact, I think she's only let all you dumb fucks in out of spite for him. Kirishima paused, thinking this answer through. Maybe that was the case here, but he couldn't help but feel like there was something else. There was something about you that was odd. Not a bad odd, but something definitely made you act differently than your father. And he couldn't help but want to figure out what that was. How do you explain the barrier spell then? Kirishima asked, watching as Bakugo's eyes widened suddenly. What? He nearly yelled, only to hush his voice when he realized how small his shitty place was. It's been up a while. On all the entranceways and windows must have been a huge deal of magic casted. Kaminari sensed it right when we walked in. You know how demons are with magic. Luckily, we have him to sense it. Any idea the kind and what exactly is protecting? Bakugo whispered harshly. Nari said it was more than likely fairy, angelic, or human created. So, he can only rule out demonic magic, basically? Bakugo sighed. That's not all. It's blocking anyone who wants to bring them harm. It doesn't make sense, either. Why block only harmful people when I'd assume she would make it all supernatural beings? Unless she wasn't the one who put it up. Someone else did, and they are more than likely a creature as well. But how the heck did you get in? Doesn't make any sense if you originally came here to kill her. Unless... For the last goddamn time, nothing fucking happened. Stop imagining shitty scenarios for me. She's just some dumb shit who has running water and a fridge. Unlike you idiots. Plus, I'm fucking sick of hanging out in rundown buildings. I'd rather get stabbed by a hunter than some rickety old ass building. Sure, man. Oh, by the way, Mina snuck into the hospital yesterday and found all the old blood they were gonna dispose of. So, now it's in the freezer for you. I don't need you to bring me my meals, shitty air. Well, it'd be waste to throw all that blood out if we have a perfectly good vampire to feed. Bakugo's eye twitched. I'm giving you 3 seconds before I rip your shitty head off. You reach down below the counter, trying to find another box to finish off your current order. You grabbed one, feeling that there was only one more left underneath as you did so. The woman in front of you smiles gently as you picked out the cupcake her small child wanted and began to box it up for them. The case was nearly empty as there had been a sudden rush of people after your extended lunch hour. Coming out of the back room, dressed to go out for the night, was Bakugo. He paused to look at you working, clicking his tongue. He still couldn't understand why you decided to do this when you could be out having adventures, thrill-seeking chases every day. You sure as hell were boring. You looked up, seeing him standing around watching, and decided to see if he could lend you a quick hand before he was gone for who knows how long. Some bodyguard he was. Thus far, he had already let 3 other creatures slip by without him noticing. Do me a favor and grab the extra boxes from the back room before you go, you mumbled as you rang up the next customer. Yeah. Don't get your ego in a twist. Bakugo rolled his eyes and did as you told. I'm sure I'm nowhere close to having mine as bad as yours is, he smirked, eyeing the blonde as he paused mid-stride to look back at you with a glare. I don't have to help you. You shrugged as you handed the woman with the small child their goodies. They waved you off and headed on their way. You turned back to tell Bakugo you could get the boxes yourself, but it appeared he was already digging through the non-food supply closet, looking for the recyclable boxes you used for your orders. You glanced at the clock and the iPad, seeing as your shop would be closing in another 30 minutes or so, but with how nearly all your items were gone, you decided you might as well close up now. No use in selling the leftovers. They were nowhere near the quality you tried to make your products after all. Plus, from the visitors you had gotten today, you were fairly positive that a werewolf, incubus, and shapeshifter would be very overjoyed to receive some more of your baked goods. All you had to do was convince Bakugo to actually give them to his not friends the next time he went out. You moved toward the front door, clicking the glowing open sign off, and then turned to start locking the door. Right as you inserted your key, however, a gentle knock came from the other side of the glass door. You blinked, looking up to see the familiar locks of green with matching eyes, smiling happily at you. You immediately pulled the key back out, welcoming your friend into your warm little shop. I guess I got here in the nick of time, Midoriya smiled, moving aside so you could lock the door once more. Yeah, everything flew off the shelves really fast today, so I thought I'd close up early and give the rest away. You turned the key, hearing the familiar clicking sound. You okay? Going out the back door? Midoriya nodded, glancing at the spare pickings left over. He looked back at you as you walked back around to the counter. He opened his mouth to speak, only to be interrupted by a sudden and loud crash from the back room. Ah, fuck! You sighed, pinching your temples. Did you break anything? Ah, fuck off! You sighed, pinching your temples. Did you break anything? Fuck off! You sighed again, turning back to Midoriya, who was peering at the back room with suspicious eyes and a deep frown. You waved a hand in front of his face, getting the boy's attention once more. He blinked his emerald hues back at you, refocused back on topic and why he was here. I'll take 4 of whatever's left, he mumbled. Did you hire an assistant? You moved to place a few of the leftover random cookies into Midoriya's box, the sound of the back room having quieted down once more. So much so that it once again felt like it was only you and Midoriya left in the shop. No, just someone I know who I asked to grab the spare boxes before you walked in. Oh, Midoriya nodded to your words. Seems to be a bit more comfortable about this. How much do I owe you? You shook your head, sliding the box across the counter and into Midoriya's hands. On the house. I was gonna give them away anyways. Plus, you're a good friend who always supports my business. Well, you make the best cookies in town. Midoriya smiled, taking the box into his grasp and looking at it with eager eyes. How are you, by the way? You blinked, confusion etched onto your features at the boy's words. What do you mean? I heard from Uraraka about the mugging last night, and she stopped by earlier today only to see you close up. She was really worried, so I said I'd stop by after work myself. So is everything alright? You've closed up a lot this week, and you've gotten hurt twice this week. One of those injuries resulting from a mugging, and Midoriya! You pulled his ear harshly, shutting him up and forcing his mumbling to cease. Relax. I closed up earlier today because I wasn't feeling good enough to work a full day. Oh. Well, I guess it's good you're not pushing yourself then. Especially after what happened last night. Sorry. I guess Uraraka and I freaked out a little bit. He rubbed the back of his head with a free hand. It's fine, really. Your voice went soft, sweet, and considerate. I'm so glad to have friends like the two of you to care about me so much. Aside from you two and Ida, I've only known the kindness of one other person, but he isn't around much anymore. I'm sure he thinks about you. You're not someone who people just decide to part from. Midoriya spoke back, his words striking a chord with you. Thank you, Midoriya. You always seem to know what to say and when I need to hear it, you chuckled, hearing someone stomping from behind you. God damn it. I pull this shitty box out and suddenly the entire thing collapses. Bakugo complains, slamming his hand on top of the box repeatedly. Well, did you just pull this box, or did you take out all the things on top? You sighed, taking the box full of boxes off the counter and slipping it beneath it to be used tomorrow. It would have taken way too long if I took the things off the top first. And yet, it took you longer because you were too reckless and impatient to do just that. And then, as a result, you had to put everything back in, didn't you, Bakugo? The blonde narrowed his gaze, eye twitching. Really fucking hate you. You know that, dough girl. You sucked in a long, deep breath, shaking your head in fox annoyance with him. Truthfully, when he wasn't being a complete and total jerk to you and all around him, Bakugo's antics were quite funny. The shop echoed the sound of a small thud, the noise bouncing off the walls, making both you and the vampire turn to look at the only other person inside the shop. Lying on the ground, next to his feet, were the 4 cookies you had just handed Midoriya. They were peeking out of the box they had been in, obviously having nearly flown out after the green-haired boy dropped them. Midoriya, in the meanwhile, was looking at you with wide, nearly terrified and conflicted eyes. He looked almost as if he broke eye contact with you. He'd missed exactly what he was seeing. But the longer you looked at Midoriya's shaken-up form, you realized he wasn't looking at you, or rather, the person next to you. You look just like him. You have to be... But how? Midoriya mumbled, shaking his head, but never once closing his eyes as he looked at Bakugo. In the corner of your eye, you could see Bakugo stiffen below the counter. He seemed unsure of what exactly was happening as well, but was preparing for another fight, just in case. Huh? Bakugo squinted at the other male across from him. It was strange, and his mind was slowly beginning to piece that face together a bit more. He wasn't sure just yet, but he too felt as if he once had known this friend of that shitty hunter's daughter. You're Kachan, aren't you? Midoriya swallowed a lump in his throat, eyes wide and never once breaking contact. The name used hit Bakugo hard, and with many different emotions and memories. As he blinked, he could once again see the once dulled and grainy memories begin to get restored. A small town, a nation at war, a nightmare of a wake-up call, and finally, the great and unimaginable heat as he was forced along. Strange how much a simple childhood nickname can bring you back to one of the worst experiences of his life, and how he and this useless childhood friend had always been forced together, until that other fateful day, that is. Deku. Bakugo bit his lip, the name falling from his tongue like venom. How the hell are you still alive? Bakugo stepped out from behind the counter, marching forward. Midoriya outwardly stiffened, obviously not expecting this reunion to make the other males so angry. Midoriya quickly moved towards the set of chairs and table in the bakery, using them as some sort of barricade. I was going to ask you the same thing. It's been a while, Midoriya stuttered. Answer my damn question! Bakugo placed a hand on the chair, just about ready to fling it through the window to get Midoriya. He paused when a hand was placed on his shoulder, sternly gripping him. He grumbled under his breath, heart still beating rapidly, but for an entirely different reason. A reason he was in no way liking or wanting to be there, but one he put up with. And much like the feeling, he also put up with the person who gave him the feeling, and her shitty rules. Yeah, Bakugo clicked his tongue, instead scooting the chair out and sitting down in it. I'll get some tea. I think you both need to be a bit calmer for whatever you both need to talk about, you sighed, looking back and forth between the two males who now were avoiding the other's gaze, unlike a minute ago when they couldn't take their eyes off each other. Thank you, Midoriya mumbled softly. You nodded but didn't move just yet. So, how did the two of you know each other? Bakugo glared at Midoriya, and Midoriya silently pleaded with Bakugo. In the end, both broke off eye contact again. Or, at least until Midoriya decided to give in to the little guilty complex he had. We're childhood friends. You inhaled a sharp breath, looking at Midoriya with wide eyes. Something suddenly not making sense with all this. Or rather, something not making any sense with Midoriya. How? Bakugo is... So, that means... You mumbled, trying to figure this out in your head. You were born in the same year? Bakugo clicked his tongue, tossing an eye to you. 1576. It looks like there would be tea for 3, because there seemed to be a lot of questions floating around the 3 of you. Questions that were bound to be answered. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed your time here, please be sure to like the video. If you would care to hear more, please consider subscribing. And farewell for now, my loves.